Earlier that day, thick, unrelenting flakes that made the village of Frostvale look like a place suspended in time. Lanterns glowed faintly along cobblestone streets, and the old wooden houses were dusted with white, their chimneys spewing thin streams of smoke. Frostvale had always been quiet, even in December, but this Christmas felt different. Mara had arrived the day before, a newcomer fleeing the bustle of the city. She'd taken the small and near the edge of town, a stone building with frost-crusted windows and a bell that jingled faintly whenever the wind shifted. The townsfolk had been polite but distant, their eyes always flicking toward the church on the hill, where a faint silhouette of the bell tower rose against the winter sky. The midnight carol, she was told, began at midnight on Christmas Eve. Every family was expected to attend. It was tradition. The 13th chime, the innkeeper whispered when she asked about it, is for the lost, the children who never come back. Mara had laughed nervously. Lost? The man only shook his head. It's tradition. Don't question it. That evening, she wandered through the village, enjoying the quiet snow. Frost coated her eyelashes, and her breath hung in the air like mist. Children's laughter echoed faintly from the town square, though the streets themselves were empty. She spotted a small group gathered near a window, staring silently at the flickering candlelight inside. Their faces were pale, almost too still, and their eyes seemed to hold secrets older than the village itself. She shivered, pulling her coat tighter. Something about Frostvale felt wrong. The church tower loomed overhead as night fell, dark against the pale moon. Its bells, Mara noticed, were unusually large. When the wind gusted, they let out a faint metallic moan that lingered longer than it should. She tried to ignore it, telling herself it was just old metal, old wood, settling in winter. At the inn, she met a few of the townsfolk who were willing to speak to her. They were careful, measured with their words. Every answer circled back to the midnight carol. It keeps us safe, one woman said, eyes downcast. Safe from what? Mara asked. From forgetting, the woman replied, voice flat. Mara frowned. She didn't understand. As midnight approached, snow began falling again, heavier this time, blanketing the streets in white silence. Mara had resolved to watch the midnight carol from her window. She wrapped herself in a thick shawl and waited, heart thudding with a mix of curiosity and unease. At precisely midnight, the first bell tolled. 11 strokes, then 12, then 13. The final chime reverberated through the village like a pulse, and the silence that followed was unnatural. She peered out. The church doors had opened, and the villagers began to gather, lanterns in hand. There was no excitement, no laughter. Their faces were pale and solemn, their movements synchronized in a way that made her stomach twist. Children walked silently alongside parents, their eyes wide, unblinking. Mara realized with a jolt that some of the children were not smiling. Some were staring. Beyond her, a low chant began, barely audible at first. Then it grew, filling the streets with voices that were sweet, melodic, but wrong. Off-key in a way that made her chest tighten. The carolers moved as one, their heads tilting slightly, eyes fixed on the church bell tower. Mara felt an urge to look up. Against her better judgment, she did. The moon hung impossibly large in the sky, full and pale, framed by clouds that seemed to twist unnaturally. Its surface shimmered, as though reflecting not the sun, but something older, something alive. A faint hum rose from the air around her, vibrating through her bones. Her hands trembled. From the bell tower, something moved. A shadow, blacker than the night, slithered across the roof. It was tall, elongated, impossibly thin. Mara blinked. The shadow disappeared, but she felt its presence, cold and insistent, pressing against the back of her mind. She stumbled backward, nearly dropping her lantern. The village outside continued its ritual, undisturbed. The chanting swelled, the voices twisting together in strange harmonies that no human mouth could produce. And then she saw it. One child, small, no more than 7, stepped forward. Her hair was golden in the lantern light. Her eyes, wide and vacant, reflected the moon itself. She lifted her arms, and the snow around her began to swirl unnaturally, forming shapes that resembled faces frozen in silent screams. Mara wanted to scream. She wanted to run. Her feet would not obey. The villagers moved toward the child. They were silent, eyes fixed, faces pale. Mara realized with horror that they were not leading her somewhere. They were following her gaze. Every time she looked at one of them, her chest felt heavier, her thoughts slower. The snow fell harder now, each flake hanging in the air like frozen glass. The chanting was louder, now clearly coming from the church tower as well as the streets. The moon above seemed to pulse in time with the bells. The child's voice broke through the chant. "Come with us," she said, and the sound carried a weight that Mara could feel in her chest. "Or stay, and the dark takes everything." Mara ran. She didn't know where she was going. Only away from the church, from the chanting, from the impossible child. The streets twisted around her, and the snow deepened unnaturally, trapping her feet. Shadows shifted in the corners of her vision, taking forms she could not name. From the corners of the square, she saw the missing children. Faces pale, eyes wide, hands raised toward the moon. Their mouths moved in the carol, but no sound reached her ears. They were part of the ritual, yet not fully alive. She stumbled into an alley, gasping. The chanting grew louder, wrapping around her, invading her thoughts. Then silence. The moon had moved. It was directly above her now, impossibly close. She saw its surface twist, dark fissures forming shapes that resembled mouths, eyes, twisted hands. The air vibrated with a low hum, a voice speaking in a language that bypassed thought and burrowed directly into fear. She understood then. The Midnight Carol was not simply tradition. It was a binding, a contract older than Frostvale itself. The villagers were not merely singing. They were offering themselves, their children, their joy. And the moon was alive. It consumed the sound, the light, the joy, the innocence. It fed. Mara fell to her knees, clutching her head as voices wrapped around her. She tried to leave, but the snow formed a barrier, spiraling around her legs like icy fingers. Shapes emerged from the snow, faces, hands, figures of those who had been returned in previous years. They were silent, but their eyes followed her, pleading and warning at the same time. Hours, or perhaps minutes, passed. Mara could no longer tell. Time stretched and folded like a ribbon caught in the wind. Then the child from the square appeared beside her. Golden hair, pale eyes, mouth moving in silence. She reached for Mara's hand. "Sing," she whispered, and Mara knew she could not refuse. She opened her mouth, voice trembling. The words were not her own. She felt the moon above consume them, twisting them, returning them in unnatural harmony. The snow around her lifted, forming a swirling column that reached toward the bell tower. She was part of the ritual now, unable to resist, unable to escape. When morning came, Mara woke in her bed at the inn. The snow had stopped. The streets were empty. The village was quiet again. But something had changed. She could hear it now, the faint, constant hum of the moon, whispering beneath the winter sky. And from the town square, the church tower loomed, silent but waiting. The villagers emerged slowly, smiles faint, faces pale. Children played in the snow again, their eyes brighter. though Mara knew they had seen what she had seen. She wanted to leave Frostvale, but when she tried, the roads twisted. Paths she had taken yesterday now led back to the square. She realized the truth. There was no leaving. Not truly. Not until the moon had enough voices to feed on again. And it would always feed. Mara joined the villagers for the next midnight carol, her voice trembling but in harmony. The moon above pulsed, and the air vibrated with its presence. She understood the unspoken contract now. Survival demanded obedience, and joy demanded tribute. The last carol was not punishment. It was protection. Protection for Frostvale. And the cost was horrifyingly fair.